What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's Maddie. If you're new here, welcome. I have kind of started this whole section of my YouTube channel on nursing, and there are so many future nurses out there and nurses that have been tuning into my channel and asking some questions about study tips for nursing school as well as NCLEX study tips. So I'm going to do my best today, you guys, to address all those questions, and I'm super excited for this video. I'm so glad that you guys are loving to learn about these things. So before we start, you guys, if you would please hit the subscribe button down below, I would really appreciate it, and hit the thumbs up on this video so I know what you guys are liking and wanting to see more of. So let's jump right in. Okay, you guys, so I'm gonna kind of give you like my top 10 things, ride or die things that I used during nursing school to get through, and my study tips and just kind of how I did things. Obviously, everyone does things differently and not everyone learns the same way. So if you learn differently, take what I have to say and apply it however it works best for you. That is number one, which is find what works best for you. So what works best for you is not going to necessarily work best for everyone else in your nursing cohort, or you know, even out of your friend group. What works for you, you need to stick to, and there's gonna be people asking you, you know, hey, can you study with me? Hey, can you study with me? And that's great, but if you don't stick to the way that you learn the best, then you're not gonna learn as much or remember as much information for your tests and things like that. So number one is find what works best for you. Number two is to make sure you know how you learn best. So depending on where you are throughout your nursing school journey, if you're kind of newer into school, you probably are starting to figure out how you best learn. But I know it definitely took me like a semester or two to figure out my best study habits. I know like my freshman year, first or second semester, I would kind of cram it all into one night of studying and stay up super late, and I just did not have very good habits, and it definitely showed on my test scores and things like that. So over time I developed my routine, and I think that that is so important to know how you best learn, whether that's writing things out, looking at a PowerPoint or watching videos, or listening to someone else say these things to you. And you know, so make sure that you know how you best learn and are going to remember things, because that is what is really going to get you through. Okay, number three, this is a more specific, starting to get into more of like the specifics of nursing school and NCLEX. For nursing school, know how your professors are going to be teaching. So if they teach mostly just via lecture, if that doesn't necessarily work for you, then bring your laptop and type out everything they're saying, and you can create a written out study guide. That's something that I definitely did. If your professors are going to be giving you the PowerPoints and you can kind of type them all out after class, I would suggest not bringing your laptop and just listening to what they're saying, and then jot down any extra points that they say kind of throughout, that may be additional points that are added to the PowerPoints. So number three, which encompasses everything I just said, is to focus mostly on your study guides. So in nursing school, you're gonna learn so much information, and it's going to be very overwhelming at times. I remember thinking, okay, I have, you know, 6 different courses this semester, and there's all so much information, and your professors are gonna make you feel like every little bit of information in every class is very important to know. So I think that the best thing you can do is to ask at the beginning if there's going to be a study guide for any given test in any given class, and focus your studies around the study guide. They give you those for a reason, and they're not expecting you to know every little detail of every little thing. Create a study guide per class and focus on those things, because you're not expected to know every little thing. You're just expected to know the big topics, and that's my advice when it comes to classes, is honestly put your time into making a good study guide that's reliable, that you are going to study over and over to get a good grade on that test. Number four is to split up the work. So don't do everything on your own. It's not going to be beneficial for you. If you can, find a group of students or a group of friends, or you know, even if there's just one more, even if it's just you and your study buddy, like it was for me most of the time, split up the work. Don't do it all yourself, and create this study guide like I was talking about earlier. that is really going to be beneficial for you. You don't need to do all the work yourself. I think it's really great to have a study buddy to split up the work with, and number 5 is to have a study buddy. I seriously would not have made it through nursing school without my study buddy. We literally would split up the work for every class, and we'd create our study guide together, and then we'd come together and sit face to face and seriously talk out every single thing that we have to know for that class. So we'd sit face to face, talk it out. If we had a question, the other one could kind of fill that in for us, fill in the information gaps, and help you remember things in a different way. Everyone studies and thinks about things differently in their head, so sometimes when someone else tells you how they see it or how they remember it, it totally sticks in your mind. And that goes right into number 6, which is to talk it through. So I think that this is one of the biggest things that people miss out on when studying, is to verbally say it to another person. So, the saying, see one, do one, teach one, that phrase, it really is true, because if you get to the point where you can look at the notes once through and then you can actually explain it to another person, that means that you've mastered that topic. And that is the point Meg and I both, my best friend and I, tried to get to before every test, was to be able to fully explain it to someone else without looking at your notes. That's when you know you've mastered that topic and you're gonna ace the test. Number 7, if you're anything like me, is to actually write it down as well. So we would type out our study guides on the computer, so you're typing and kind of transferring information from one place to another onto your study guide. Then you print out the papers, then you're talking it out to another person, or even to yourself. If you don't have a study buddy, you can just talk it out to yourself, but try and do it in a way that you're sitting in front of a mirror or you're sitting at your desk and you can, without your notes, kind of talk it through and explain it to either another person or just to yourself. And then number 7 is to write it down. So I wanted to share this with you guys because I took a picture of this article, and it says, when we listen to a lecture, the part of our brain that handles listening and language is engaged. This passes some information onto our memory, but doesn't seem to be very discriminating in how it does this. So crucial information is treated exactly the same way that trivia is treated. So this essentially is saying, when you're sitting in class listening to your professor lecture, it's coming in and out of your brain like trivia. So someone gives you a little tidbit of information, it goes in one ear and out the other, and it kind of just passes through your brain, and you're not storing it in your long-term memory. So this says, when we take notes though, something happens. As we're writing, we create spatial relations between the various bits of information we are recording. Spatial tasks are handled by another part of the brain, and the act of linking the verbal information with the spatial relationship seems to filter out less relevant or important information. So that being said, I know that was kind of a lot of jargon. When you write something out, your brain takes it from just being something that you heard once, and it actually stores it into your memory. So like I said in my last video, Meg and I would seriously sit there for hours and write out our study guide before we would actually talk it through with another, before we would actually talk it through with each other. We would sit there and write out the entire study guide word for word. I kind of wanted to show you guys how we did that. So honestly, you just take a huge stack of plain white paper with you, and we liked the plain white paper because you can kind of make it however you want versus the lined paper. And then I wanted to tell you guys, the best pens in the world are these Pilot G2 pens, and you can get these in a pack of, I don't even know, 10 or 15, and these are the best gel pens you'll ever find. So this is what we used all the time. We had every color you can imagine, and we would just write most of it in black and then underline and circle, draw diagrams, highlight, and that was seriously the best way that we learned. Okay guys, sorry about that. My camera died in the middle of recording this video, so I just charged it and I'm back. So I think I was on, let's see, number 8. So the next 3 are going to be NCLEX specific. So when it comes to the NCLEX, I was definitely terrified. However, the school that I went to really prepared us for the NCLEX. So I honestly think most schools teach to the NCLEX in the sense that they want you to pass. So don't stress yourself out too much. Know that it's going to be okay. And there are so many options out there as to how to prep for the NCLEX. So if you guys want to know what I did specifically, I did what was called the HURST review. So our senior year, my school in particular kind of offered this as the best thing to do to study for the NCLEX. So it's called HURST review, and I will leave all of the information down in the description box. And I'm pretty sure I'm trying to remember because now it's been almost 3 years, but I'm pretty sure that the school can kind of ask them to come. So we had enough people wanting to do it that they asked HURST review to come and do a study session. And I'm trying to remember if there were people from other schools too. I can't remember, but I will link all the information down below. But essentially what we did was, it was a 3-day intensive course, but I want to say it was like 8 to 4, 3 days in a row, and they give you a study guide workbook. So that was an absolute life changer. I think that after this course, I felt so prepared to take the NCLEX that I was like, okay, can I just go take it tomorrow? They do such a good job of, they walk you through everything. There's fill in the blanks. So as we were talking about earlier, you can write things in as you go along with the lectures, and it kind of just keeps you engaged the whole time and focus on what they're talking about. And I just absolutely thought that this course was so amazing in preparing me for the NCLEX. HURST review in particular has a 98.6% pass rate. So I know for my class, I think maybe 1 or 2 people didn't pass the first time taking their NCLEX, and I don't even know if they had taken the HURST review. So I can't remember the exact statistics, but I know that me and all of my friends passed with flying colors, and there were no complaints about the HURST review and what we did to study. So like I said, I wish I had this to show you guys, but they give you a workbook. I'll try to find a picture of something similar and link it on the screen here. I think all my study guides and my workbook for the NCLEX and everything are at my parents' house back in Utah, so I'm actually going there on Saturday. So if I find it, I will do another video and show you guys like the exact workbook and everything. But it's just so beneficial because they lay everything out by topic that you need to know that's going to be on your NCLEX. They give you practice questions too, so we went through a ton of practice questions, and I just felt so prepared after that. I noticed yesterday when I was looking it up that HURST review is actually having a $20 off code right now, and it actually expires on the 20th, which is tomorrow, I believe. So if you see this video today or tomorrow, you can use this code, and it is Elevate 2018. I'll put it up on the screen here and down below, but I can give you $20 off. The course that I did at the time was $350, and now I think it's gone up to $399. But I'm not kidding you guys, you will not regret doing this course. So my senior year, when I decided that I wanted to set my test date, I had been told from people that, you don't want to wait too long. So after you've done HURST review and you've graduated, you've gotten your degree, I waited 3 weeks, and then I booked my test for 3 weeks out. So I gave myself a little leeway, like, graduation weekend, have a few days off, not worry about studying or anything, and then after that I got right to studying. And I studied good for 2.5 to 3 weeks, and then I felt totally prepared to go and take my test. Obviously, the unknown is scary, and you're never gonna feel like 100% confident that you're gonna pass, but that was my way of doing it, and I think that that was the perfect amount of time. I know people that waited a couple months to take it, even 3 months to take it, and I think that that just gives yourself more time to stress and be anxious and kind of psych yourself out of it. So I think I'm just the kind of test taker that when it's fresh on my mind, I feel the most confident. So I gave myself 3 weeks to study, which I think is a really good amount of time. If you are a really good test taker, you could probably even study straight for a week or 2 weeks and then take it. So what I would say is pick your test date and stick to it. Even if you get to the day before and you're like, oh, I don't think I'm ready, and you've been studying really hard, you're ready, I promise. Go take it. You're going to be fine and you're going to pass. You've been studying this for, some of us, 4 years in the making, some of us, just 16 months, but everything that you've been learning and applying on your tests in school are gonna carry you through. You know how to be a good nurse at this point, and I genuinely think that the HURST review is amazing. This isn't sponsored by them or anything, but just from my experience, I had such a good experience with it that I felt so prepared to walk into my test, and I passed with the lowest amount of questions on the NCLEX. I only had to take the lowest amount, which most of my classmates and friends did as well, so that's always a good sign. Oh, and just other study tips for NCLEX that I would suggest, there's a bunch of apps that you can get on your iPhone or your tablet or whatever that are NCLEX style questions, and so I would just go through a bunch of practice questions too. So I would have my workbook and I would study that for maybe like 4 to 6 hours in a day, and then I'd spend maybe like 3 or 4 hours the rest of the day going through practice questions, and I did that almost every day for 3 weeks. So don't get me wrong in the sense that you still have to put in the time and the effort to study these materials and everything, but I feel like you will be very, very prepared if you do both the workbook from an NCLEX preparation course, because they genuinely focus it exactly on what you need to know, and then also just go through the style of NCLEX questions because they're very specific in how they ask questions. So the more questions that you go through and the more that you've seen, the more likely you are to pass. So those are my study tips, you guys. I hope this was helpful. If you have any other questions, obviously, as always, leave them in the comment box below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And so proud of all of you. I can't wait to see you all pass your NCLEX and all of your nursing exams. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you back in a couple days.